In downtown Bangalore, a Hindu priest performs a ritual blessing known as a puja to protect a parade of new cars. Every day, the queue of cars grows longer as increasing numbers of India's booming middle class take to the roads.
India's relationship with the car really started, I would imagine, with the Maharajas, because they were the first people who sort of imported cars from England, much later from the US. Rolls-Royce used to be the Maharaja's car. So the love affair with cars really started with the Maharajas. And like all luxury products in the world, it sort of seeped down.
A Mercedes costs between 65 and 550,000 US dollars in a country where an estimated 300 million people live on less than $1 a day. Yet this dealership in the Punjab still sells several hundred cars a year.
So if you look at the bottom of the pyramid, cars are basically instruments of mobility, but layered on top of that, it still is a signal to the fact that I'm doing well in life, recognize me by the car that I drive. So why would you, for example, want to drive a 600 series Mercedes-Benz at 4 kilometers per hour in a city like Bangalore? Basically to allow people to look at you and say, wow.
I would say as far as the comfort, the styling, the convenience and the safety are the factors which persuaded me to buy one. So not only one, like I have 3 now, but I love driving any class the most. When you are driving and when you are riding in it, the comfort you get and the performance of the car is such that you feel that you are different from others.
But spiraling demand for all forms of motor vehicles means the country's roads, especially in major cities, are clogged with cars and motorbikes. Last year alone, 9 million two-wheelers were sold in India and nearly 2 million cars. Many motorcyclists want to upgrade to a car as it's a much safer way to travel on the country's treacherous roads. The barrier has always been cost. But industrial giant Tata has opened up a whole new market with its small car, the Nano, costing around 3,300 US dollars. But some question the logic of what India is doing.
India is a country where you've got 1.2, 1.4 billion people, whatever it is. You've got huge mega cities. You're not really going to be able to transport people around those cities in private cars. It's just physically not possible, I mean, apart from the environmental consequences of it. So what you really want to do is to design and put in place a really good infrastructure for mass transit systems. And I think that will be actually a much better investment and a much better industry for India to develop than go down the route of the private car.
The plans for the new car attracted immediate media criticism in the West, which questioned its environmental impact and claiming that they could prove to be a trigger for environmental headaches across the globe. For men such as Rahul Bajaj, there is more than a whiff of hypocrisy from the West. Having created their own wealth during a period of a heavily polluting industrial expansion, they are now criticizing the developing world's desire for growth.
Per capita, we produce pollution which is not even 1/10 of what the US produces. And our Prime Minister has made a commitment that India will not produce pollution per capita which will exceed ever that of the United States. And that's what matters. You can't tell me in totality that India should produce less pollution than, say, Singapore. I mean, is that a joke? So yes, in totality, because we are over 1 billion people and China is over 1 billion people, and we are growing, which they did for 100 years, so we do produce the pollution, as they did.
I think that what we have to do is to help them see that by following the same path as us, we collectively stand to lose a lot because it will generate too many greenhouse gases for the atmosphere to be able to cope.
The problem is that traditional petrol and diesel-driven vehicles have now become hugely important economically to India and other developing economies.
If you look at the entire automobile industry, it's probably one of the biggest industries, it is one of the biggest employers, it's the biggest guzzler of resources, it's the biggest employer in terms of talent, in terms of engineering. So automobile is an important industry for any growing or developed economy.
Bajaj Autos makes virtually all the familiar yellow-topped auto rickshaws on India's roads. Their chairman claims that the developing world cannot afford not to go for growth and that it's now time for the richer world to put its money where its environmental mouth is, sharing new and cleaner technologies with the emerging markets.
Without growth, you will have nothing else. That's where we say poverty is the biggest polluter. Do you want me to go to the Stone Age? We don't want charity. India never has wanted charity. We don't need charity. But the developed world, they want a clean world. Then they must give technologies to the emerging markets, especially those who are growing very fast. Anybody, in fact, who needs it on comparative, reasonable terms. That's where the funding has to come from. Not money, but technology.
The developing countries are the victims and not the perpetrators of this problem. And the rich countries should accept that the developing countries have the right to develop and have a decent standard of living.
The carbon emissions created by the West fueled huge leaps in living standards from the Industrial Revolution onwards. Now, as the emerging world develops and demands equality, should it too be given 150 years of leeway?